lot of, what you see as far as the OTR versus the local. Well, now I kind of felt like it'd be a good time to kind of break down some of the nuances that I noticed, or things that I noticed as far as, getting a local job with a private carrier versus an OTR job with a mega carrier like TMC. And one of the main things, like, I've watched a couple videos, and I know I have some subscribers. Most of them, probably subscribed because they were interested in getting a flatbed, interested in TMC Transportation as a company, or just, a new driver's perspective. But mainly for me, the transition from going local to OTR, and the things that I wanted to point out is there is a difference. TMC was a good company to get your foundation with, to build those building blocks, those foundational, the training aspect of it, the deep-rooted, good habits and things that you're going to need in trucking. Because I feel like everybody should go over the road for, a certain period of time before they think about going local. There's people that I know that fortunately, they were able to come right out of CDL school and go local. And there's some people that, that aren't as fortunate to find that local job with that private carrier or what have you. So that they can just go straight to a local job. Most people have to go over the road. I appreciate my over the road experience with TMC, the training, just the general experience that you get from going over the road. But the things I want to point out, and maybe in another video, I will point out, which do I like better. But really what I wanted to point out was one of the main differences with OTR and local is that besides that you're not living in the truck and you're going home every day, really what that is that when you're not living in the truck, you're not driving that truck every, all day, and you're not living in that truck. You possibly won't even be driving the same equipment. Like the equipment that I'm driving today, I probably won't be driving tomorrow, because the local fleet is going to have obviously less equipment at their disposal than a mega carrier. And so, you're going to be switching in and out of equipment. With over the road, you're pretty much assigned a truck, and that's the truck that you're living in basically. And whether or not you're with a company like TMC, where you're going home on the weekends, or you're staying out, you're like a company with Maverick, or Melton, or a different flatbed company, or ATS, where you're staying out more so than TMC is more of a go home on the weekend company, or just basically to do your reset at home. Whereas local, you're going home every day, you're not living in the truck. So that piece of equipment that you're driving is going to change up a lot. And you're going to, so one of the first things is that, depending on what type of local job you get, is that you're going to be using different equipment, not the same equipment every day. So the guy drives over the road for 5 years, he's pretty much going to have that same equipment. Even if his equipment breaks down, he has to go to the shop, the chances of him getting a loaner are slim. I've only known like one person when I was over the road with TMC that actually got a loaner truck, and that was because he happened to have a live load on there that had to be delivered. Other than that, he would have just been sitting on breakdown status. Whereas with a local company, if something's not working, they're going to switch you and put you in a different truck. So that's one of the main things. With that, so local, what I'm doing is delivery, basically groceries, gas stations, essentials. Basically, what I'm delivering is, to chains like gas stations like Parmar. I'm working out of the West Virginia area, the Charleston metro West Virginia area. And my delivery area is Ohio, Kentucky. I think we do PA too. I don't do runs up there, but basically that's my area, my area of operation. That is that radius, basically that 150-mile radius is that West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio area. Now, again, I'm delivering. My local job is reefer, and it's a reefer trailer, so it's a box trailer. And although there are dry goods in it, it's a reefer trailer. So I'm in a day cab, and I'm delivering to chains like Food Pharmacy, which is like CVS, Carmar, Marathon, CIF, Clark's, those type of gas stations, and then a lot of mom and pop businesses. So with local, you're going to have a lot of mom and pop. So with local, you're going to be doing more urban driving. You're going to be doing more, driving in residential areas. With that being said, one of the main differences with that and OTR is that with OTR, the majority of your driving is highway. Once obviously when you're picking up and you're delivering your product, when you're pulling flatbed, obviously, these lumber yards, these steel plants, these shingle plants, these sheetrock factories and things like that, of course they're going to be, they're more in industrial areas, industrial parks. Whereas with local delivery, and let me specify that because you got local that's just touching docks, but with local delivery, which means I'm hand trucking with a dolly, my load down a ramp off the truck or a lift gate. So I'm doing, a lot of work every day. And so with this particular local job and most local jobs, even if it was a dump truck or it was a concrete truck or it was, oil and gas, you're going more into, back roads, backwoods. You're driving local versus OTR, to me, is totally different. The trailer sizes switch up. With TMC or with most flatbed companies, you're going to be pulling the same 48-foot trailer or 53-foot trailer if you get one of those, or a step deck or RGN. That's going, whatever trailer that you're pulling is going to be the main trailer that you always pull. Here at this job, out of 5 days a week, I might pull 5 different size trailers. For instance, I'm pulling a 42-foot trailer because the customers that I'm going to, the confined spaces that I'm going into, I don't really need a short trailer. Some of the customers or some of my routes that I deliver on, I'm using a pup trailer, a 28 or 26 or whatever foot trailer. Sometimes, most of the times, you use a 36-foot trailer. That's probably like the most standard trailer that this company uses. But again, where you're driving at is like the biggest thing. What you're driving and where you're driving. It varies from day to day. That's a big difference because with OTR, and even if you're with a dry van or reefer, company, OTR, you're pulling the same trailer the majority of the time. My buddies that drive over the road for big mega carriers, they pull the same trailer, a 53-foot trailer, reefer, van, whatever you want to call it. They pull that all the time. So you get accustomed to that trailer. With this, you have to, you have to learn basically every day, when you first get started, the different trailer sizes and what you're able to do, because it's different every day, until you get used to that. So like today I'm pulling a 42-foot trailer. Tomorrow I might be pulling a 28-foot trailer. The next day I might be pulling a 36-foot trailer. I might pull a 48-foot trailer. We have those. it changes up so much. So your driving habits change because, like I said, the equipment that you're using, and you have, whereas with OTR, you're basically using the same tractor, the same trailer every day. Whereas with local, you're using a lot of different equipment. So you have to make that, adjustment because it's a lot different every day to pull a different size trailer when it comes to backing, which is the next thing I wanted to get into. Local jobs, like the job that I have, I'm going to say, because not every local job, but when you're doing delivery jobs, groceries, whatever you want to call it, you're doing backing probably 10 times more backing than you do in OTR. In OTR, the only time that you're backing into something is if you're picking something up and you have to back into a bay or a dock or whatever, depending on what you're pulling, or you're dropping something off. There's only really 2 times out of a whole day from a 14-hour clock that you're going to be backing. I mean, okay, and then when you go to a truck stop, so you're going to back into a parking space. But if you're, a lot of the experienced smart drivers, they don't, have to do that. They just go to a rest area. Like you're going to try to find a rest area where you can just pull forward because you don't want to have to back up if you don't have to. Whereas local delivery, we're going to see where you're at backing. And it's not the same backing every day. Like it's not going to be a dock or a bay. It's going to be some type of gas station that you see all the time. That when you're in your passenger vehicle. And how do you think that place gets its deliveries? Look around the next time you're at a gas station and say to yourself, well, if I'm pulling a semi truck or a trailer, how would I back into here? Where, so you have to scope things out. You have to say, okay, where does the back of this need to be pointing at so that I can pull my ramp out, and bring it off of there? Is it a back entrance? Is it coming through the front? Is it coming on the side? There's a lot that goes into, logistically speaking, doing deliveries. There's a lot that goes into it. Whereas OTR, I mean, you're getting to the plant and everything is pretty much like, routine. You go to Worthington Steel, you're going to come through the gate, you're going to do this, go through the security gate. The only time you're going to do a back is when it's time, when they call you, when your buzzer goes off, and it's time for you to pull around to where all the coils are at, and you're going to back into that bay. And they're going to load you up, with a forklift. Local is totally different. Local, you're going out and you got 5 to 10 stops on your trailer, and you're unloading those stops until you're empty. And so backing is something that is like you would get a lot better doing local if you had to do deliveries. If you had to learn how to back up, this will get you good at backing up. Because backing was not my forte, OTR. And now it's like, backing is like, 5 to 10 times a day. 5 to 10 times a day. So this is, 50 times a week, I'm backing up. As opposed to, at 90 degree, 45 degree, a lot of things that you wouldn't even be able to do in a flatbed, loaded up, high with lumber, because you can't back that up the same way you can a van or a reefer trailer or tandem axle trailer. So it's like the backing is like you're going to be doing a lot more backing, and it's going to be a lot more difficult. There's a lot more things that you can hit. Cars, you're coming way more in contact with vehicles, with cars. Way more in contact with them. You're turning. This is why they have the different size trailers for local, because you can't pull a 53-foot or 40-foot trailer into this little mom and pop, supermarket or gas station. You can't back this, around the corner at a 90-degree angle, this longer trailer. So you have to have shorter trailers. So backing is something that you do a whole lot more of. This is why I was watching a guy's video that I watched, Driven Trucking. I'm on his channel, and like he said, he did reefer and dry van before he did flatbed. So he feels like one of his things is that a lot of flatbed drivers, if that's all you pull, then that's all you know, like how I used to be. Well, you really haven't done backing, because you're only backing up basically, once or twice or 3 times a day at maximum. So the type of equipment that you're using, the type of trailers that you're pulling, the way that you're operating that equipment is a lot different. The roads that you're taking. We have trailers that are like narrower. They're like, I don't know if they're 96 feet wide or what the instead of 101 or whatever the regular standard is, but you're going to be doing a whole lot more driving on roads that your truck GPS will otherwise say is a restricted road. That doesn't exist with local. Restricted road doesn't exist with local, as it does with. Now, what does exist is bridge heights and clearances, because you're 13.6 now versus a flatbed, which if you're empty, you're nothing. You're 12.6, you're 12.7 with your smokestacks, and now you're 13.6 all the time, basically. So now, yes, you have to still be able to make sure all your clearances are going to be proper, but at the same time, you're going to be going down roads, you're going to be going down more, I don't even say residential, but like more of like the route roads, like Route 416, Route 215, where your GPS in the truck is going to tell you that this road is restricted or not advised. But however, you're going to be going down those roads. So the driving is different. You're not just laying back and putting it on cruise control and driving down the interstate, especially Midwest. And I'm driving in an area which I'm going to have to jump out there and say is in the top 3 difficult terrains to drive in, because I'm driving through Kentucky and West Virginia. And I'm not talking about 64, where there's numerous rollovers every day coming around 64, around the Nitro, Beckley, for those that know 64, 77, and 79, Parkersburg, Clarksburg. I'm talking about the back roads where the coal trucks are going. That's the roads that these mom and pop gas stations are on. They're in the middle of nowhere. So delivering in a major city, which we also do, some major areas like Columbus and stuff, Lexington, Ashland. But for the most part, your driving is going to be way different with local, because you're driving in areas that are not designed for the trucks to go through at all. They're restricted. It'll say local deliveries only. So that's why, hence, they made these smaller trailers for local deliveries. I'm going to have to say that, the level of difficulty of everyday driving in local is not even comparable to OTR. OTR is like, I can't wait to get on the interstate like I'm on now and, be able to go, 70 miles an hour, 71 miles an hour is what we're governed at. Which, by the way, is another thing, is that with private local companies, they're not concerned about fuel costs, so you're going to have a faster truck. Whereas OTR, mega carrier, since you're mainly driving on interstates, and you're mainly, and you have a bigger fleet, so there's more fuel being used, and you're always at that high speed, maximum speed, you're always, hammered down, whereas local, it's stop and go. It's stop and go. You know, it's just like when you're driving your car, except you're not. You're driving your commercial vehicle. So, again, the terrain that you're driving in on a daily basis, the mountains that you're going through, you know, the type of roads that you're going on that you wouldn't even in your car like to go on. This is the majority of the type of roads that I'm going on every single day. You know, is the type of roads that you don't want to go on in your car. So that's one of the main differences with it, is the terrain that you're driving in. And then, as I was saying, another thing is that with local, you're not sleeping in the truck. You're not, you know, in the truck as much as you are OTR, because you're living in your truck, basically OTR. I'm going to just say you're living in your truck, other than when you do a reset. So if you want to call your home time being home, it's just a reset, like you were at a truck stop, but you're just at home. With OTR, that's the case. Now with local, you're actually going home. Like I might get home today. I started at 5. Today's a short day. I only have like 2 or 3 stops. I might get home at 1 or 2. So the drive there is long, and then the stops in between are like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and then I'm, you know, 10-minute drive, then unload, you know, work that product off the truck down the ramp, and then I'm done. So that's one of the main things. Now I'm going to get into the working aspect, what I feel is more work, flatbed, because this is only going to apply to that. Securement versus, you know, dollying stuff off of the truck. What is more work? Well, back to what I was saying, since you're not living in your equipment, you're going home every day, you're driving your car more. You're driving your car to work every day and back. And when you get home, when you're with your family, and when you're out doing what you're doing. So you're switching back and forth from truck to car more often. That's a big difference. You know, because when I had the weekend off, which is a true weekend off, Friday, Saturday, you know, truly, you know, the majority of Friday, all of Saturday, all of Sunday, not going to park up, but all of Sunday, and then I'm, you know, getting up at 3:30, 4 in the morning to get to work. So you're driving your personal vehicle more. You're switching back and forth from car to truck, way more than you are just, you know, so that's a difference, because when you're driving a truck all the time, then that becomes like a car to you. You know, it becomes like you get very used to that, and then, you know, it's like your car seems strange to you when you get home. You have to drive your car, whereas I have to, like, you know, remind myself, like, okay, over the weekend I get back in the truck this morning, it's like, because I'm driving my car a lot locally. So it's like hopping back up in the truck tomorrow, I'm going to go home, drive my car home, might drive around, you know, for 2, 3, 4 hours before I go to sleep, then hop back in the tractor. You know, you have to remember there's a trailer on the back of here. I'm not hopping in my car. So it's like, it's more switching back and forth, which means you have to be more on point when you get out there on the road, because this is not my car right now. You know, but I was just in my car 2 hours ago, whereas at OTR, I'm not going to be in my car for maybe a month. You know, so it's a big difference. So we talked about the equipment that you're using being different every day as opposed to having the same equipment OTR. Oh, equipment is another thing. The type of equipment that you're going to get local as opposed to OTR. Well, TMC, I mean, they probably have the best overall equipment out there. They have 579 Peaks, 379 long noses. You know, some people still have Kenworths, the older drivers, but they have the best equipment. You know, they probably have the best shop, the best, you know, when I'm saying best, I'm not talking about the fastest, I'm saying the most maintained, serviced equipment in trailers. And overall, if you look at other companies, if you look at other flatbed companies, their equipment is probably superior, even if it's not the best, most powerful motor, it's not the jack engine, because these engines are more powerful than TMC engines. These are Cummins, the X15. The first time that I got in one of these trucks when I had to do my road test, which they make you do, when you go local, road test, and make sure that's the first thing they want to see, can you even drive? Because most local companies want you to have experience, and now I see why they want you to have experience, because it's harder. This is harder than OTR. But the first time I pulled one of these, which I'm pulling right now is an International, or I'm driving right now is an International, but I road tested in a Freightliner, single axle, because local, that's another thing, you have more single axle tractors than a tandem axle, because again, it's easier to turn the single axle because your turning radius needs to be small for these tight confined areas that you're going into, as opposed to having that, and you're not pulling as much weight. That's the other thing. You don't need the tandems because your drives are not getting 30,000 pounds or whatever the max is. You're not getting near that. You might be 30,000 pounds. Luckily, if your weight period is 30,000 pounds, without the tractor I'm talking about. So, yeah, I pulled a Freightliner. We have Freightliner Cascadia day cabs and International. I don't know what model the International this is. I don't know if it's 7500. And we got some older trucks, which since I'm newer, that I usually get stuck driving. I went down and picked up a 98, a 2007, auto that still has the clutch, that you still have to clutch it, but it's an automatic. There's just no shifter. But, and that's another thing, is that you're switching back and forth from manual to auto when you're local, because it's whatever equipment is available. But the point I was getting at was that you're going to have way better equipment with a mega carrier than you are locally, especially if it's a small outfit like this one, where we only have like 20 tractors total, as opposed to a company like TMC. I mean, yes, the Freightliner Cascadias are decent. They're 2017, 18, 19. And like I said, they have way more power opened up on them than the Pete's with the pack arm. The Cummins is just a better motor, period, anyway. But, these are the X15s, and they have all of the power available to them. So, some guys' trucks are governed up to 75. That is a big difference from going 62. And like I said, local does not care about fuel. That's the least of their, even though we fuel at the terminal for $1 a gallon, but they're not concerned about fuel costs. They're concerned about getting it there and getting as many accounts as they can get, and having as many, and getting as much on that truck that they can get, and doing as many, stops as they can possibly do in that area that they're trying to deliver to. But yeah, your equipment local is not going to be as good. It took me a while to get used to that. I'm used to leather